Words. There are those things that are placed on your shoulders you don't ask for. Nevertheless, placed there they are, and no amount of struggle will allow that burden to be lifted. You are forced to deal with it when you just wished it would go away and leave you alone. Yet, it's those things that in the end test your fortitude. That will to carry on in spite of it all. Moreover, it is these things that leave you to do it alone in the face of adversity. In the end, they teach you many things about life in general, and most importantly, about yourself. You find out just how strong you really are, and just how far you are willing to go to see it all to an end, regardless of the ending that is in store for you. You face these things with your head held high, getting back up no matter how many times your legs are cut from under you, or you try at least. Then there are the times when your shoulders become so weighted that when you fall, it's almost impossible to arise to the challenge just one more time. You hold out a hand, begging in your own way for help that never arrives. Once you realize that, you stubbornly find a way to get back up on your own one more time. And you're glad that the help didn't come, because it taught you the lesson of depend on no one but yourself. You are the only one you can count on, and when the debts are tallied up, you owe nothing to none, even though yourself are owed much, but you also know that you will never be repaid. Those burdens that are thrust upon you bring serious collateral damage. They can cause you to lose the few things that matter most. The one thing that you loved more than your very own life slips slowly away. You know no matter how hard you try, you cannot hold tight enough to keep it near you and to keep you anchored. And the reason only laughs when it sees what it has done to you and keeps adding to the burden because it knows it can, with impunity. These were the things you never asked for, never even wished on your enemies. Yet they are laid at your feet with a smile. These things that took the very life from your very own soul. I have heard it said that if one can hold their head up and keep fighting no matter the adversity, they could at least hold on to their dignity. However, what good is dignity when there's nothing left to give anymore? Nothing left to fight for? When dignity is all that is left, what is the use? Dignity will not lessen the burden, will not bring back the things most preciously lost. 'Tis nothing more than a fool's game of ultimate hypocrisy, daring to dream a dream with the hope of never waking. Autumn Winds, written by Todd McKenzie, narrated by Lilies Sea Nation. It's a sunny autumn day, which makes the shadows of swaying trees move about the walls of my unlit house. I have no desire to adhere to their beckoning movements. I know better. The beauty of nature has diverted to something much, much more ominous since the forest began resisting visitors of the human persuasion. The grass also secretes an acidic dew, forbidding the cooling sensation of moisture beneath bare feet. The world remains indoors for now, but the trees wish to bury their dead, and they order the vines and weeds to take hold of the blasphemous dwelling places that we have built out of the corpses of their loved ones. Humans try to argue that this was the way things were meant to be. You were made to house us, to warm us, to allow us to breathe. But the plant life has always been the majority of the living things upon this ever-spinning sphere, have made the humans eat their own statements. For the shadows of the hanging pods dance about my walls as well. They want me. They want my warmth, my exhaling breath, the fertilization of my flesh from unnecessary limbs, which will be pulled away and cast out to rot with the browning leaves. Winter's coming. Time to sleep. I swallow a multitude of pills, but I realize far too late from what they are made out of. The desired effect takes me. Perhaps this is mercy. They know that I'm willing to die, so that they may be provided sustenance. But I awake without the ability to move, save for the swaying caused by the autumn wind. Family dinners. My family switched from gas cooking to the newer electrical models recently. It's been an interesting transition, to say the least. Family meals are certainly different now. It's something new, a reason to be excited for dinner. I love the mystery of it. How nothing seems to be happening until the meat begins to blacken and curl, crinkle under the heat and the shock, steam rushing out as the fat spits and dribbles from out under the skin. I love how quick it is. One moment, raw flesh, sat waiting to be cooked. The next, a fully prepared meal, filling the air with its delicious sweet and salty aromas. I love how when it cooks, the blood trickles out smoothly, not in thick clumps like with gas fires. But there are some things you just can't replace. Some things a fire is just better at. You can't replace the beauty of the flame trickling up their bodies, crawling across their skin, watching as it blisters into beautiful golden crackling. You can't replace the smoky smell of gas fire, the way it fills the room with a thick fog of flavor. Ma said, "I'm for dinner tonight." I'm excited, so excited I can barely stop crying. I can already imagine me crackling and cooking like all my brothers and sisters. I can already see the sparks running through my body. I love the new electric cooker. You have your father's eyes. That's what everyone would tell me. I look exactly like my mom, but I have my father's eyes. It became one of those things where I heard it so often, it started to lose its meaning. But I couldn't lose the eyes. I saw the fear in my mom's face when I hit her full blast with my gaze. I saw the pain and the trauma she endured at his hand. My father was not a nice man. He was an abusive alcoholic. He would hurt my siblings and my mother and me. As I grew, I understood that this was not the way a loving father was supposed to treat his wife and his children. Being the oldest of 4, I knew it was my responsibility. I had to do something. So I took his eyes. He was passed out drunk when I came after them, wielding a small pocket knife he had given me. I tried to pry them free, but only managed to scrape off part of one when he awoke in pain-fueled rage. Terrified, I started stabbing at him. He grabbed at me, pinching my arms with his grip, and tried to force me off of him. Screaming and crying, I kept stabbing and slicing, only stopping when his grip finally loosened and his body fell limp. Then I was able to finish my task. The police called it self-defense. They saw the bruises on me and my family, spoke to everyone and found out what we had been through. They didn't even question the 2 gaping holes left where his eyes should have been. Now, I keep his eyes in a small box in the back of my closet. And when people say I have his eyes, I simply smile and say, yes, I do. Tell me to smile. Aw, come on, girl. Smile, he says as I pass. Hey, now smile. This time rolling along behind me, just a yard or so away now. Why not give us a little smile? You know you would look so much prettier if you just smile. He calls out louder. I stop walking. This is not a new situation to me, and millions of women throughout the world. The act of something seemingly so simple as being compelled to smile by others, mostly men, and living with its various consequences. It is an everyday occurrence, with varying intentions, that are left up to our instincts to interpret properly. In other words, it's a real pain in the butt. It can also be a grim matter of survival. And tint can of course range from the casual, unusually innocent, "Aw, it can't be that bad, smile," to the aggressive and obviously offensive, "What, you too good to smile at me? Up yours." See what I mean? Personally, I tried to take care when reacting to the calls and remarks from those met along my path. They always range from my sweet and truly kind bus driver, or the postman just passing along the sidewalk, to the big difference of someone following me as I make my way to work. At this moment, the latter seems bound and determined to get my attention. "Smile for me, little mama," he snarls again. When that fails to get the desired response from me, he resorts to the usual snarl of, "Dang, girl, wouldn't hurt you to smile. You ain't all that." Slowly, I turn around and give him exactly what he's been asking of me this whole time. All 3 blocks worth, to be exact. So now, he's just a few feet from me, and I close the gap between us quicker than he could blink. Suddenly, sitting before me is a grown man straddling a rusty BMX and sucking on a bent straw of a quick-stop cup. His eyes squint when he sees me there, and I see he's also a bit surprised at how easily the distance between us closed. Yet the smirk still remains on his lips as he casts a long look from my toes all the way up to what is now my full, bright smile. Except he's not smiling back. Now I wonder why. Well, I'll just smile bigger so he can see all my teeth. Yes, that will do the trick. There. Now he can see every single one of them and all their beautiful gleaming rows of sharp silver peaks. Still no smile back? Don't you think that's rude? Okay, I'll just open up wider and give him the biggest smile that he's ever seen. His mouth is just gaping and starting to tremble a little though, but his eyes are stuck wide open. "Aw, come on, give us a little scream," I say in my sweetest voice. "You'll look so much prettier when you scream." wolf of vengeance. I had just turned 12 years old when it happened. In less than one night, I went from being a child, opening her birthday presents with her best friends, to a wide-eyed, shaking wreck of a girl. My childhood died with the brutal death of my best friend, and my nightmares have never let me forget. Not for one single night. They blamed it on shock, that seeing her corpse being mutilated like that must have made me see the creature I described killing her. I tried telling my parents, but they refused to believe me. I was just traumatized by what I saw, they said, telling me it was likely a cougar or a wolf or a bear. But I knew what I saw, and it was definitely way bigger than any wild animal I knew about. When I went down to talk to the police, I tried explaining to them, but they just laughed me out of the station. It seems like someone is always making fun of me or being mean. Even one police officer said, "Get out of here, you crazy little witch." I just ran away in tears. It only took a few moments, but it casted a dark, graven shadow over years of my life. I have constant nightmares, waking up in a trembling cold sweat. I repeatedly dream about how it came into our tiny little camp while we sat around the fire. I even hear the raspy sound of its breath. I told others I didn't know why it chose Julie instead of me, but it was no random act of violence when the beast attacked her, biting into her shoulder blades and clawing her back. It had coarse black fur and walked upright like a human being, but it was neither human nor animal. At first, somehow Julie managed to scramble a short distance away, but she was no match for its jaws closing around her neck. I heard her bones crushing and cracking like the twigs we broke up for the fire. Within moments, she was limp and dead, like a torn-up rag doll. The thing bent to pick up her body with one clawed hand. It was lean, muscular, and at least 8 feet tall. I could hear it breathing deeply as it reached into her chest, tore out her heart, and feasted on it. I couldn't look away. I was frozen with dread. Sure, I knew I would die too. There in the woods, miles from my home and my family. I remember the beast's eyes. They are burnt into my memory like hot coals, yellow and glowing like twin moons. I saw malevolent intelligence in their depths. It had come here purposely to kill her. It raised one blood-stained claw and pointed at me, staring right into my eyes and further beyond. I felt my blood turn cold and my vision blackening. When I woke up, a rescue party had arrived with police, vans, and men in coats who took pictures of what was left of her mangled body. They covered it with a white sheet, which soon turned red. I repeatedly told them there was a monster beast out there, and it was cunning and cruel. That led to my parents sending me to a succession of therapists, psychologists, and finally a psychiatrist. I was just an average girl out on a camping trip, and within a night I became a withdrawn, cynical young woman, living every day in terror. I pleaded with my parents to believe me. They sent me to a mental institution instead. And I spent 3 years in Thornwood Institution, where they heavily medicated me and shocked me. It was like torture. Pure torture. I learned to lie to the staff to secure my release. But in my nightmares, I always relived seeing Julie's mutilated body, hearing her screams of terror, crushing bones, and squirting blood, and the beast's panting breath as it feasted on her heart. When its eyes met mine and raised its claw, I always woke up, screaming. Luckily, screaming at night was a common thing at Thornwood. I hated my parents for sending me here. I never went back to my house. I felt nothing for them anymore. I got a job as a maid at a local inn and found a tiny, cockroach-infested apartment to live in. But the nightmares, they never stopped, and I was alone in the world. Doing my job became almost unbearable. I was always so tired and miserable, so I took to the bottle. At first to help me sleep, kept the nightmares quiet, but soon I was spending all my time drunk, and the nightmares returned, more vivid, louder, and terrifying as ever. I couldn't sleep. I was constantly paranoid, and then I finally lost my job. I kept seeing the beast in the corner of my mind's eye. I could only draw the curtain shut and cower in my bed. I'm writing this because it's my fault Julie died. I never meant for it to happen. I didn't think it would work. But it wasn't a wild beast that killed Julie. She had made fun of me at school, hurt my feelings, so I wanted to get back at her. I found an old book of spells and poems, and I read one out loud, called The Wolf of Vengeance, and I wished for the wolf to come for her. Even though I meant it at the time, I had no idea it would come to pass. Wolf of Vengeance by Ivan Kharkov. I call unto you from under. Bring your howl and growl against mine enemy. I'll give my life unto thee, if only you heed my plea, and take one other life for me. My enemy hath smited and spat upon my character. I hath fallen unto disgrace. Almighty, eat her heart. I'll be happy as a lark. In the name of the Wolf of Vengeance, I beg that of her there shall be no more remembrance. Years have passed since I performed my dirty deed, but I can no longer live with it. I can't escape or live with the vicious nightmares anymore. Emotionally, my heart is being ripped out every night, just as much as Julie's was. I have been in fear, wondering when the wolf will complete my cursed malevolent poem and physically rip my heart out. My life is worse than death. Is this what I gave unto the Wolf of Vengeance? The library. As I crossed the threshold of the library, I noticed all the sounds of the street had stopped. I shrugged it off as being, well, soundproofed. I slowly weaved my way through the aisles, finding nothing that drew my attention. As I drew deeper into the depths of the building, the lights grew dimmer, until eventually the only light came from candles and brackets along the wall. The books, they grew darker too, though not in the same sense. They grew more arcane. Scared, I turned around to leave. I walked briskly back the way I came, but the overhead lights never returned. I retracted my steps and took different turns, all to no avail. Was that movement? My gaze tracked to the end of the aisle I was in, and I saw a shape moving slowly away from me. I chased after it, calling out. As I got closer, the shape sharpened to that of a man. I asked him breathlessly how to get out of the library. He didn't move. Then, out of nowhere, he whipped his head around. I only caught a glimpse of his face before I threw my arms up to protect my own, and he bit me. Caught my arm good. Down I went, and I scrambled away from him. I managed to find my footing and ran like there was no tomorrow. My lungs, They felt like they were about to burst when I finally stopped. I had no idea where I was. I was so scared and exhausted. Before I knew what I was doing, I lay down and went to sleep. I would love to give you a time that I awoke, but I don't know for sure. I had lost all sense of time. I dragged my aching body to my feet and scrambled down the hallway. I noticed it getting brighter. The books were more lighthearted. I looked up, and I saw an ancient light bulb. I started to run down the hall, glancing upwards as I ran. The lights grew brighter until I caught a glimpse of the doors. I ran towards them, freedom so close I could taste it. As I stepped up to the doors, they stayed still. They didn't open. I reached my fingers into the crack of the doors. I tried to pry them open. They wouldn't budge. Locked? I thought. But that idea was shattered as an older man walked to the doors. They slid open for him. He threw me a glance, and I thought I recognized his face. As he tipped his hat to me and walked out into the world, it hit me. That man was the man in the aisle. He was leaving. I walked to the open doors behind him and tried to walk out. As I strode towards the open doors, I hit something. It was like walking into a wall, but all that there was in front of me was air. I hurried to the librarian to ask her for help. No matter how loudly I asked, she ignored me. She glanced up once, but it was like she was looking past me, through me. I tried to shove a pile of books over to get her attention, but I couldn't move them. She calmly reached over and picked the top book off the pile. I had to figure out what was going on. She stood up and began to walk away from me, and I grabbed her arm, pulled her back. Her arm didn't move, but she sort of seemed to be looking for something and following where I led. I led her to the table and let her go. She looked at the table and then under it, but seemed to decide she didn't find what she was looking for, and went back along her way. So, that's my story. I'm still here today. We haven't been busy, but you never know. You may come in sometime looking for a book. I may take your hand and lead you deeper and deeper into the library. You may catch a glimpse of me and ask for help. I may just get my freedom at the cost of yours. I'm waiting for you. Soul Abbot. It takes about 8 minutes for light from the sun to reach Earth. That's because the distances between things in space are huge. For example, did you know that when the moon is as far from the Earth as its orbit allows, you can fit all the planets in the solar system in between it and the Earth? Crazy, huh? The sun looks so close sometimes. Sometimes it almost seems like you can close your eyes, stretch your arm towards its warmth, and dip your fingers in it. But that's impossible, of course. Now more than ever. Anyway, this delay in light meant that when we noticed that Pluto was missing, the thing that had taken it was already at Neptune. I've heard that the government has ways of tracking it as it moves throughout our solar system, doing something to the planets. But I don't know for sure, because they won't tell us anything. That's okay though, because like I said, light from the sun takes 8 minutes to reach Earth. So a few seconds ago, when that thing opened its jaws and swallowed the sun, we knew. Let me go back. So a few seconds ago, when that thing opened its jaws and swallowed the sun, we knew that it was already on its way here. Aborted departure. What most people don't know about space is how incomprehensibly big it is. Proxima Centuri is the star closest to our sun. It is billions of miles away, so when we first noticed the alien spaceships racing toward Earth at just a bit short of the speed of light, it was going to take them quite a while to get here. Still, we didn't waste any time. We immediately sent radio signals in their direction and spent a fortune on a massive deep space radio tower in case they sent any back. A waste, some might say, because they only sent 12 words back. Your destruction. Inevitable. We come. We take. We take you all. When we received that, we really went to work. Every country started developing as many thermonuclear bombs as possible. Fortunately for us, this was easy to organize, because most countries were still a part of the Coronavirus Eradication Coalition. A few years back, people had started dying at younger ages. People would just grow old fast and die. 2 months ago, the oldest person alive was 55 years old. Now you're lucky if you hit 40 before you start shriveling up like a prune. Before, explanations of this phenomenon had been scarce, but now, it seems like the architects of this strange affliction were racing towards Earth to finish the job. I don't think anyone expected us to win. I know I didn't. I expected to go down in a blaze of glory. Can you blame me? Only 23, and I had already found gray hairs when I was showering the day before those strange crafts were set to arrive. Better to die up there, I thought, than wither away down here. The day came, and to everyone's surprise, we annihilated the entire alien fleet with no losses to our own. We celebrated. It wasn't until weeks after that we noticed that we were still aging at a rapid rate. My hair was entirely gray now, and one of my friends passed away at the ripe age of 28. We barely had time to ask the question before the answer came in the form of the Earth splitting open and swallowing up our barely used spaceships. The doctors say I have about 2 months left. Still, that was enough time for me to learn some crucial things. 1. The aliens knew more about our planet than we did. 2. The reason we did so well against the alien ships was due to the fact they were built for transportation, not for combat. 3. It's hard to build spaceships when the laboratories keep getting destroyed by earthquakes and thunderstorms. 4. The Earth was alive. 5. It was getting hungrier. Close encounters of the first, second, and third kind. On the first day, we thought it was a technical malfunction. I mean, signals from outer space? It sounded like a bad science fiction movie. On the second day, we got together experts to decipher the signals. On the third day, we figured out what the signal was. It was an information stream about an alien race, like an intergalactic business card, or a warning. On the fourth day, we learned about their society. They were a military theocracy that based their economy on the conquest of foreign planets and worlds. Corpus Rapitum. They preferred capturing native populations to kill them, so they could use them in their religious rituals. On the fifth day, we found out exactly what happens in those rituals. On the sixth day, we learned about their biology. Thin stick-like bodies with long slimy appendages for mouths, and deep dark holes for eyes. On the seventh day, we found out they were dying. On day 8, we found out what was killing them. A strange race that the Rapitum thought they had conquered turned out to be shapeshifters. They killed and replaced the upper echelon of their society. The Rapitum tried to fight back, but eventually they joined their serfs in enslavement. On the 9th day, we found out that this mysterious alien race also kept slaves. On the 10th day, we found out what they did to them. On the 11th day, we found out how the race traveled, by hitching rides on meteoroids and crashing into target planets. Yesterday, we received the final transmission from the Rapitum. It was a guide on how to recognize the shape-shifting species, even when they were disguised. Today, we found out that it was too late. Happy birthday, they used to say. Happy birthday to you. In the not-too-distant future, we were going to have flying cars, endless food, miracle medicine, and a world of peace. Until all the adults went away. No one knows what happened. It just was as surreal as reality can get. Many of us just woke up to the empty beds and houses. Alarms blaring with no certain answers from their users. No notes goodbye. No missing cars. Nothing that I could discern would have signaled our parents to have been taken by force. It wasn't long until we knew for a fact they had all just disappeared. It's still happening. Every time one of us ages, we turn 18, and we're just gone. Few see it though, and it's hard not to blink when you're focusing that hard. But one second you're there, and the next you're not. I wonder if it's better there, wherever they go, I mean. It certain isn't any good down here. Oh, at first it was normal. We all grieved, panicked, and tried desperately to decide on what we should do next. Some of us tried to take on responsibilities, help the little ones adjust. Then the fire came. For a while we weren't sure how, but as we scrambled to organize the hysterical children, we saw them. They were crazy, with way too much liquor in them. They were throwing around homemade Molotovs. They took us over. We didn't really get a choice. They had guns. What were we supposed to do? Worse, the kids just loved it. I mean, they were timid at first, but then they just fell in love with being able to play with real guns. And the shadows. I don't know if they're real or not, but it certainly isn't helping. We hear noises at night. In the distance we see movement. And these crazies, they took over our camp. Our protectors. The little babies may eat that right up, but we know better. They do too. I see it in their faces when they look at me. Try something. It is written all over their face. It wasn't long till the first kid got shot. They died, and I couldn't do anything. That poor little kid thought he was protecting us from the shadows. She was coming back from the restroom. You get the idea. Those crazies had him beat, and when he cried for mercy, they shot him. Justice, they called it. We called it madness. We called it tyranny. And we tried to stop it. No one can say we didn't try, but the kids were scared. And after weeks of taking in other refugees and hearing more stories about the shadows, everyone just turned to the guys with the guns. I don't know what is happening elsewhere, or what's happening where you're at, but at night, I hear the low gurgling sounds from the shadows, but that doesn't overwhelm me. It's the nights. I promise I hear gunfire and screams in the distance. I wish I could do something right about now. I wish I didn't have to listen to them all, scared, crying, alone. Have you ever read The Lord of the Flies? Perhaps not. Whoever hears this won't remember us. You won't remember me. I guess that's why I'm recording this, so that someone will remember us. No. I'm recording this because even after all the trouble we caused, even after executing everyone else who tried to put a stop to them, they didn't kill me. It's It's because they know they don't have to. I'm recording this because today's my birthday. "500 words. Psst. Hey, you. Yes, you. Let's make a deal. If you agree to listen to what I have to say, I'll give you a heads up about something which directly affects you. Don't worry. I promise to keep it short. They've only given me about 500 words, so I can't go on too long. Still with me? Great. First of all, you should know that I'm dead." "No, really, I am." "Fine, don't believe me. In fact, I prefer that you don't. But play along for a bit and use your imagination, okay? Now then, when I died, I was given 2 options. The first option was simple: move on to whatever lies ahead, leaving the world behind. This is the usual choice, even though they don't tell you what lies ahead. The second option was more complicated, so they gave me more details. Basically, it works like this. I would be given a tiny amount of influence to dispense as I saw fit throughout the life of a loved one. I could whisper in their ear, give them little nudges and flashes of intuition, that sort of thing. Like looking at a timeline, I would be allowed to view the whole span of my loved one's life, to see all its brightest and darkest possibilities. Then I could spend my influence to both increase their blessings and help them avoid devastating tragedies. Yes, I'd be like a guardian angel. Pretty nice gig, right? Well, there was a catch, of course. Because love always requires a sacrifice. If you choose to become a guardian, your previous life is erased, wiped out, deleted. You aren't just forgotten. You will never have existed. Apparently, this is done to avoid the problem of creating a dynasty of lucky people with unfair advantages, for even your children would be born to other parents. But so what? You're already dead, right? Well, it seems that very few souls can handle the idea of being erased. Most of us like to believe our lives mattered, even if it was only to our loved ones. Heck, even if your life was mostly a struggle, at least it was your struggle. Choosing to become a guardian means nothing you ever achieved, learned, or endured will have mattered. Yeah, anyone who says that it's an easy sacrifice is a moron. But you, I'm sure you can imagine the extraordinary amount of love it takes to become a guardian. Just imagine erasing everything you ever were for a person who never knew you. Someone who is a complete stranger. Now, imagine a guardian sacrificing so much, then reviewing your life to find your darkest experience, the one which will drop you into a pit of unending pain and despair. Imagine them spending their entire stock of influence, about 500 words, just to urgently whisper a helpful warning into your ear. Can you imagine all that? Good. Then maybe you can imagine how much I hated you. My helpful whisper in your ear? Good luck tomorrow. Children of the Moon. In the town of Bisden, nobody leaves their home after dark. As soon as the sun begins to set, shutters are drawn shut, candles are snuffed out, and doors are locked tight. Before the moon is fully risen, the entire town appears deserted, and silence reigns supreme. "Did you hear that?" whispered Freya, sounding very small and afraid in the dark. "Shut up!" her older brother Freud hissed through his clenched teeth as he eyed the black windows of the house nearest to them. They were probably locked. Nobody in their right mind would leave their windows unlocked at night. Not in Bisden, anyway. "I told you we shouldn't play in the forest," continued Freya. "I said we should go home sooner." "And I said shut up," Freud went on. "Whining about the past doesn't change the present." Freud looked at his sister shivering in the dark. "It doesn't change the situation we're in." Before Freya could respond, the faint sound of a child's laughter floated across the wind. Goosebumps erupted along Freud's neck and arms. Something about the sound seemed so wrong. "Maybe there's other..." Freud put his hand over Freya's mouth, pulling her in close. He shrank back into the shadows of the alley. Again, the unearthly sound drifted across the air. Freya tensed in Freud's arms as she realized the magnitude of their situation. A child's voice, oddly distorted, broke the silence of the night like a fist through glass.
Come out, wherever you are."
The thing lumbered across the mouth of the alley, just a few feet from Freud and Freya's hiding place. It was roughly the size of a child, yet shuffled with its arms hanging grotesquely close to the ground, making its body appear ape-like. It was completely nude and had skin so shockingly white that it reflected the glow from the moon. The thing turned its shimmering bald head toward the alley as it crossed. Its face was perfectly smooth and entirely devoid of features, except for the impossible wide smile with thin lips the color of blood. The crimson slash of its mouth appeared to stretch from ear to ear. Freud felt warmth spread down his thigh as his bladder let go. Freya whispered. The thing froze in mid-stride, its body becoming as rigid as stone. Slowly it turned its torso until it was facing the alleyway. It took a tentative step forward. Freya sucked in a sharp breath through her nose as she began to hyperventilate. Freud clamped his hand over her mouth, but it was far too late. Impossibly fast, the thing twisted its head toward their hiding place, producing a sickening crackle from its neck.
"Found you!"
In the town of Bisden, nobody leaves their house after dark. Every day, young ones are sternly told to be home by dusk. They are told of the evil that haunts the streets at night. They are told to always remain silent, because if they hear you, the children of the moon will tear you limb from limb. Alright, my lovely lilies, thank you so much for watching the new video. If you can, hit that subscribe and like button, comment below and tell me your thoughts. Also, don't forget to tap the little notification bell so you're always in the know on this channel. As well, guys, you can always find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and always you can hit me up in my emails. Feel free to send me your stories, whether they're fiction or totally true. I'm always up for some great stories. And oh, by the way, until next time, sweet dreams.